Hello, I'm Cat, and as of the Village and Pillage update, we officially have 5 different types of chests available in Minecraft. 5 seems like far too many to have of the same type of item, but as you start to look at them and realize we had these 4 already and then we just added the barrel, it makes a little bit more sense. But let's work out, was it really worth adding a 5th type of chest in Minecraft? And is the 5th type of chest, the barrel, actually worth using in some way? That's what we'll be working out in today's video, and I hope you do all enjoy the analysis of all of these different items in cost, function, appearance, and of course the efficiency. If you want to make a chest stream in 2019, which of these should you use? That's what we'll be answering in today's video, and I hope you all do enjoy it. So with that said, let's just talk about the chronology really quickly, because we start with the chest in Minecraft, and for the longest time, until way after the beta, as in the full release 1.3, we got the ender chest, which gave us 2 different types, and obviously these are very different items. But then obviously we later got the trap chest, which seems suspiciously similar to the regular one and had more use when it first came out. We'll talk about that later. Then we got the shulker box in the 1.11 update, in the World of Color update. As you can see, I've got a giant one built over there. That's how much I like these guys. And then we've got the barrel in 1.14, which is a part of the Village and Pillage update and does have a lot of village uses in addition to what we're going to be talking about today, and we'll mention them briefly. But for now, let's just first of all talk about the cost of these items, because the crafting recipe for the shulker box is the most expensive in terms of how much it's going to cost to go there in the end. You need to have 2 shulker shells, which is, like quite an absurd thing when you think about it, as well as a chest, because shulker shells drop 50% of the time when you kill shulkers, which are kind of tricky to find because they spawn once. There's a limited number of these you can ever craft, and because of that, it's always going to be limited in its value. For this, you need to get an IF ender and 8 obsidian. That's obviously a lot more expensive than the next contender, which is just a chest and a tripwire hook. But you know what's cheaper than a chest and a tripwire hook? Just the chest by itself. 8 planks is all you need to make the chest. So how is it that the barrel is cheaper? And if you've never seen the crafting recipe, it's literally just 6 planks and 2 slabs. That means if you basically, 2 planks is equivalent to 2 slabs is 1 plank. That means you need 7 planks or 1 3/4 bits of wood to make one of these fellas. So if you just want to have a single thing to just lie down on the ground and then show stuff there, then this is going to be the item for you, because you can store the exact same amount as the chest, but for 1 plank less. It's very slightly more efficient in terms of the cost, and you might think, why does it matter if this costs 7, this costs 8? We're talking about 1 3/4 bits of a tree versus 2 bits per tree. But the big difference there, in my opinion, is the fact that if you want to make a bunch of these, it's gonna scale better, because you might want 100 barrels to store a huge amount of something, and in that case it's gonna save you 100 planks as opposed to the chest. And 100 planks, we're talking about over a stack and a half there. That is real amounts that will save real amounts of time and effort. So yeah, this is the kind of cost of them all. But what does the cost matter if we don't talk about the functionality? Like, of course the shulker box costs more, but you get something for that. Of course the ender chest costs more, but it's really a very different chest. So let's talk about how these things are all different then, because if they're all chests, if they were all the same, then obviously you'd only use the barrel. But there's a reason that shulker boxes are so great. I collect them a bunch in my survive world. There's a reason I have so many ender chests, and that's because obviously the ender chest is kind of different to all of these. The ender chest has 1 set of storage across the entire world. It's the same stuff in there no matter what you do. So we take out this leather tunic, for instance, we can run over to this ender chest over here, very different one, and we have, again, access to the same stuff, but in a different place. So again, you all are probably familiar with the ender chest, but it is a very different tool, and it's the only tool where you can actually put all your stuff in it, die, and then keep your stuff. All of this other stuff is kind of tied to the place where the item is, but the ender chest is an ethereal, separate dimension just for your items, so it is worth mentioning, really useful. Also, only you can access it, so for multiplayer, it's even better. Really, I would say the ender chest is a multiplayer item, or it's like a secondary backpack that you can carry around with you, so it's kind of separate to the rest of these. The shulker box is kind of the cross between that and a regular chest. If you put items in a shulker box, then you can store all of those items and move them around your world. So now when we break the box, which would recommend a pickaxe usually, but you can use your fist, but when you break the box, all of those items are going to remain a part of it permanently. So again, you can then carry them around with you, and it's kind of a way to increase your inventory slots, but other people can open them, and you can't die with them unless you put them in an ender chest first. There's a fun little thing you can do. But yeah, basically, this is a way to increase your inventory size more than it is a chest. It's a chest that you can place down, and when you have it somewhere, it is in fact a chest. Again, it looks like one, works like one, but because it can be moved around with you, it has a portability factor that justifies the high cost. So then we have the 3 chests, which are all basically the same, like look, chest, chest, barrel. What's the difference here then? And the simple difference is like, okay, when you have a trap chest, of course you can open it and you can set off some redstone, but 99.9% of the time, you don't need to set off redstone when you open a chest. It's good for traps, it's good for, oh look, we can have a light go off, but the trap chest is just expensive, doesn't usually justify the cost, so therefore the functionality difference is just barrel versus chest. What are we talking about when it comes to the function difference? And honestly, there isn't really one. They both have the same number of items per single chest. However, the chest, in exchange for that extra plank, that extra little bit of wood, you can actually combine, stack them, combine them together, and you can make double chests, which might be useful if you want to keep, like double as many items, 54, in one place. Also, you can obviously put them next to each other, you can put them on top of each other, and it seems like they're pretty, similar to each other, but they've got some key differences, which we'll move into, a little bit later. But next up, let's just talk about the appearance of them, because I think the chest has this classic look. I think the trap chest is just exactly the same. Most people never notice the slight red tint around there, but I think the barrel has a really nice charm to it. But the key place where I would say, in terms of appearance, the barrel loses is the animation. Look how nice the animation is for a chest, like that satisfying creaking open kind of sound. And then it's the same for the ender chest, although the ender chest has these cool particles that come out when you do that. Then the trap chest is exactly the same, but I mean, there's other stuff going on here. I love the shulker boxes, open and close. Let me show you the animation for the barrel. Again, you might have spotted it earlier in the video, you might not have, because it's not even an animation. You get a different frame where the barrel is open. So, closed barrel, open barrel. It literally just switches immediately back and forth between the two. I just don't know. Why doesn't it like slide open, or why doesn't something happen? Yeah, it's very, very, very unsatisfying. It does have to be said. So, least satisfying animation, and as far as best looking chest by itself, if you can afford them, because they look good, because it's like a flex, like, yeah, I killed all these shulkers, but also if you can afford them, shulker boxes look great. They come in all the different colors, so you can just make a pretty rainbow if you want to. You can make a Microsoft logo if you want to Hell or Overlords or whatever. And yeah, in terms of just sheer, like prettiness, the shulker box does win. So which of these would I recommend for actually making a house out of them? Which of these should you actually use in your house? And I'm gonna say the barrel is the one that I would recommend, because it's cheaper than the rest. And I'm going to go ahead and say the barrel is the best item of choice, because it means you can separate your storage units even when they're next to each other. There's no, even though the upside of the chest is you make double chests, there's no real easy way to avoid double chests. You sort of can, like, you have to rotate them around, but then they look awful. You lose a lot of points for that. It's tricky to have them next to each other without them overlapping, whereas barrels, if you want to make a bunch of barrels next to each other, guess what? You can totally do that. You can lay them in different directions if you want to, but you can also have them right in a line next to each other and have different amounts of storage. It's very, very, very useful in that way, and that, like, oh yeah, it's the same as a chest, but the it's individualized, which is nice. But then on top of that, you don't need to have space in front of them for them to open. In fact, they can be surrounded on all other sides and they'll still open, whereas a chest always needs that space on top of it to be free, or at least another chest, for that to work. And because of that, these are much better for making a storage room. To prove that point, let's go inside my giant igloo I have over here, and let's just show you the fact that, like, okay, we have a 2x4 space right here for chests. We place a chest there, we place a chest there, we place a chest there, but we can't place a chest up there without having it unopenable. You'd have to break the ceiling, which does defeat the point a little bit. The chest below it will still open, which is great and fun, etc. But yeah, the fact that you can have 6 chests in that 8 chest space, or in any space, the ceiling is always going to have to be left free. Whereas when we use barrels to do the same on this side, you can see how, like, oh yeah, we can just place them all in one place, and now we have access to all 8 different barrels. It's slightly more useful in terms of filling the space, and because they all look exactly the same, as opposed to this kind of double dynamic with the gap in between, you can actually make a wall of barrels, like an actual room of barrels, instead of having something like this. And you might say, well, Toycat, this is the recency bias. There's a really common psychological bias everyone has, where if something's new, it seems way more exciting than something that's not. This is the reason behind a whole lot of kind of bad and sometimes good human behaviors. So yeah, everyone knows about the chest, and everyone forgets about its strengths and stuff, and obviously the barrel is brand new, so you're thinking about all of its strengths, the fact that you can use it in more places, and also the fact that it's going to help your villagers, which we haven't even probably mentioned yet, because again, nice little bit of function is this will help out your village. So your storage room could also be a great villager hub, and you could do 2 things at once. You're thinking about all of the great things about something that's recent, and forgetting all the amazing things about the thing that isn't. This is why, I don't know, like, people end up cheating, right? Like, oh yeah, I forget why I'm with my girlfriend, but what I really don't forget who I'm with? My mistress, etc. Or, like, I guess, so basically what I'm saying here is, like, oh yeah, the barrel is your mistress, and the chest is your reliable wife, but, like, maybe your reliable wife isn't as good as your mistress. This is not the message I wanted to send with today's video. Because I've been meaning to make a giant chest room and finally consolidate all my different stacks of all the different things somewhere near the center of my world. This is pretty close to the origin. We're at like 34-0. We're going to be about 50-0. Basically, right next to the center of the world, I want to have a giant chest room, and I'm going to be making that giant chest room out of barrels. And just in case you didn't believe earlier about like sticks being used on Bedrock, it literally costs 6 sticks, you know, that's like 3 bits of wood, right? Because 3 bits of wood would be 6 sticks, plus the 2 planks. We're talking half the cost of a chest here, which means we can make a huge number of these pretty cheaply. So now we have a giant row of barrels. This is how it could look if you just want to have a bunch of things next to each other. And again, I really like the satisfaction of just seeing all of these items next to each other, but then we have the second row on top, and it's like, oh yeah, this logically seems to me like a way to store lots of different items, whereas a chest room, it's hard to distinguish where one item ends and the next begins, whereas here, one barrel, one item, unless clearly stated otherwise. Like, you can have a whole row of barrels to be the same thing, but it's a good way, in my opinion, to distinguish between like 27 items, etc. At least that's my thought. And a fun thing we can actually do here is we can take advantage of the fact that barrels can be used in different directions to make the actual barrel room itself look like a giant barrel, like you better believe we want to do anyway. By the way, even though the recipe for this is really cheap, it's a pain when you have a pretty full inventory because you're a hoarder trying to actually like make the physical spaces you need for items. So keep that in mind maybe if, like me, you have hoarding problems. By the way, when you're making any form of chest room, one of the annoying things is you have to crouch place everything because otherwise you just open the barrels you're standing on top of, and that's the thing to watch out for. I mean, I guess it is nice that you can open barrels while standing on them, but also it's not nice that it like, yeah, you have to crouch. Like personally, I really like saving time where I can, so like crouching is just the antithesis of all of that. Like, oh no, now I have to, you know, like walk along manually and place blocks. How am I gonna do that? I guess it's like the Minecraft version of first world problems. And just as we finished, a wandering trader shows up. So it's so nice that even this guy likes it enough to come and trade some stuff with me. Isn't that wonderful? I mean, his trades aren't wonderful. I really don't want most of them, but it is a nice little offer. Anyway, so here you can see this right here is our barrel. It's a barrel made of barrels entirely. You can see how we pretty much recreated the barrel, but using barrels. I liked it at least. It's a really simple concept, but now this also works as 225, because it's 15 by 15, a little bit off from the main dimensions of the block, but it's 15 by 15, 225 sets of storage. So 225 times 27 items. You do the math, or I mean, I'll do it very roughly in my head, like over 4,000, over 5,000 separate items we can store in just this one wall. And then we can also have that be 225 separate. Oh, no mind, that's over 5,000 stacks of items. We're talking very, very, very high into the hundreds of thousands of items for one of these walls. If we have 4 walls, then we'll have literally over 1 million items we can store here, and every single one of these can be a very well segmented stack. And here's the cool thing about this: if we want, we don't even have to use these as like actual blocks. We can use them as like dividers between layers if we want, and then like use them later for like cobblestone or some garbage like that. But then we can use the scaffolding, because we're going to destroy this now if we're going to be honest, but we could then later use that as a way to have like a floor between each layer, because even though it might be like, well, Toy Cat, how are you going to ever open that one up there? You just can't reach it. You can reach pretty high, but you can't reach all the way to the top. Well, that's where scaffolding comes in, right? Where you just, or a ladder or something like that, because you can just have right in the middle here, like, oh yeah, here's the way you climb it, and then about halfway up, or yeah, something like that, we go out into the middle, and now we can reach every single one of these, which is kind of cool in my opinion. So yeah, we now have a way to store so many items. It obviously is going to require a bit of work, but that's something we can work on in the future. But I wanted to show, I believe in the barrels so much that I'm building a giant barrel from barrels, and yeah, maybe you think it's ridiculous, maybe you don't, but it's something I did in today's video, and I hope you did all enjoy this. I hope this inspires you to make a giant barrel, because I really think this is a super useful thing to do. Again, this is just the start, the basis of the thing, but it is a really, I think it's the future of chest storage rooms, and if you disagree, let me know why in the comments, but you won't disagree because my opinion's correct, and that's how the internet works, isn't it? So thank you very much for watching today's video. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hit that bell if you want to see more, because I'm going to see you all in the next video. Goodbye.